All right, so for this first folder for week 7, we are going to kind of take a break from our regularly scheduled curriculum. We're going to stop in the middle of urban geography just to take some time to focus on the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So the Russian invasion of Ukraine started on February 24th. Depending on what time you are looking at this folder, things might have changed a little bit since what I'm going to present today. Because I'm presenting right now on March 3rd. So you're probably not watching this on March 3rd. So this is a very quickly evolving and changing situation. So what I'm going to share is just a little bit of overview, and then you're going to be watching some videos and reading some articles related to it as well. And like I said, depending on when you're watching these videos or reading the articles, the situation may have changed. So I think many of you, and if not all of you, have heard about the current situation in Russia and Ukraine. And today we're going to kind of try to get a basic understanding of these world events related to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, as well as start asking some questions. And so one of the things when we have big current events like this happening in real time, we still have a lot of questions, and we don't necessarily have answers to all of our questions. And so the goal, is to think about this critically, think a little bit about how it might relate to human geography, but also to be able to, investigate and ask our questions. So like I said, we're going to be taking a break from our regular curriculum to discuss these current events. And, to begin, I'm just going to kind of go over where Ukraine is, because you may have heard of the country of Ukraine. You may see it in the news. But sometimes we don't necessarily have a good geographic knowledge about what part of the world we're talking about. So we're going to start by just looking at where Ukraine is on Google Maps. So if I kind of zoom out, I got the world here. We're over here, right, in Minnesota. I'm zooming over here. This is Europe. And then this big country up here is Russia. So Ukraine is in Eastern Europe. If I zoom in, this is Ukraine right here. And so it's nestled between the rest of Europe and Russia. The Black Sea is to the south. The Black Sea has an outlet into the Mediterranean Sea, which eventually has kind of an outlet into the Atlantic Ocean. And so this is Ukraine. It's a pretty big piece of land. It's a pretty big country. But Ukraine was part of what we call the Soviet Union, and has been an independent country now for about 30 years, for just over 30 years. So they're going to talk about that in one of the videos. So that's where Ukraine is. Going back to that, so here's Ukraine once again on a map. Before we jump into what's going on, you are going to be completing an assignment, and the assignment is in this folder. So I'm going to go back to this folder. I'm going to walk you through each of the steps of this assignment, but at this point, you may want to open up this assignment, and you may want to just kind of take a look at it yourself. So there's going to be 4 parts to this assignment. The first part is just before you start, and that is before you read anything, before you watch the videos. That's what you're gonna start by doing. Then you're going to watch 2 short videos. Then you're going to pick one of the following articles. The other one would be extra credit, and then you're going to do the follow-up questions. So just to walk you through those steps, I'm going to have all the steps on these slides. Before you start, you're going to answer these questions. What are 3 to 4 things you either know or have heard about, or you might know about what's happening in Ukraine right now? What are 2 to 4 questions that you have about what's going on? And then for open discussion, this isn't part of the assignment, but I want you to think about, the Russian-Ukrainian war is not the only war that's going on right now. There's a war in Yemen. There's a war in Ethiopia. There's a war in Colombia. There's wars still in Syria, in Myanmar. So this is not the only war that's going on, but it seems to be that it's getting a lot of attention. And part of it is that Russia is very much connected to us. We are kind of currently an adversary of Russia, and so we feel like we're being pulled into this war. Russia also has nuclear weapons, and so the scale of this war, maybe the scariness of this war, could potentially feel a little different. And it's pulling very much of the world in because they're so connected to Russia through trade, through gas and oil. Russia has a big economy, and then also just the massive invasion of another country. It feels different than a lot of the wars that maybe are more civil wars, maybe wars between themselves. Not to say that it's any worse, that people aren't dying everywhere around the world in the current war situations, but This one is going to bring a lot more of the world into it. And so I think that is what feels different here. And that is not to diminish the other people that are engaged in war and are affected by war. So the current situation, once again, as of March 3rd, Russia has invaded the country of Ukraine. The red regions on this map are all the regions that are now controlled by Russian forces. And then the yellow regions are regions that are still, the Russia has not taken over yet, but you can see the little bombardments. These are regions that are currently kind of there's fighting occurring. So for part 2 of your assignment, so you're kind of following along with your assignment, you're going to be watching 2 short videos. They are both linked in the assignment. So you are going to watch those on your own. You need to only watch about the first 4 minutes of the CNN 10, and then you're going to watch this entire one, but it's not super long. When you do that, you're going to write down 2 to 3 most important points you learned, and you're going to briefly describe what happened at each date for video 2. Just a reminder that we talked already about refugees. And so the Ukrainian war is creating very much of a refugee situation. A lot of refugees are going to Poland. So this is Ukraine right here. We don't really see any refugees going to Belarus. Belarus is very much aligning itself with Russia right now. But Poland has really taken in the most amount of refugees. And so that's going to be a big struggle for Poland to be able to house refugees, to be able to provide them the resources that they need. Other countries that are seeing refugees are Hungary down here, Moldova, which also borders Ukraine, and Romania and Slovakia. So then for part 3 of the assignment, you're going to pick one of the following articles. So you can choose. You could do the second one for up to 5 points extra credit. So I'll give you extra credit if you do both, but you only need to do one. So the first article is Why is Russia invaded Ukraine? They're both Newsela 8 articles. And this article is going to be a little more factual and more explain the facts and the why behind all this is happening. The second article is called The Worst Sunrise of My Life. This article is going to be focused more on real people's experiences living through this. So depending on what you would want to read more about, choose that one first. And if you choose to do the second one, you may do that one for extra credit. And then part 4 of the assignment is to follow up with the following up questions. What is your reaction to these events? What role do you think the United States should play in the crisis? Should we get involved? And then what questions do you still have about the topic? So that's going to be your assignment for this folder. I think it's really important when events like this that are affecting all of our lives take place, that we take a second and we stop kind of our regular curriculum in social studies and we take time to actually discuss these. All right. Let me know if you have any questions on this one. I'll see you in the next folder.